Hello, folks. My name is Brandon Bryce, and this is another episode of Straight Talk Live. This is a special edition on Sunday night. Get off your couches and watch this great episode, folks. We're talking about rapper, hip-hop mogul Ice Cube. Yes, Ice Cube cut a deal with who? 45. He cut a deal with the president, and some folks are saying it's moving Black America forward. Others are saying the guy is moving blacks back to decades. But some folks are saying it's the right move. We want to hear from you. Straight Talk Live, we're here on now YouTube. We were on Facebook Live. Tonight we'll be on YouTube and we'll be on the Facebook channels and also iHeart Network. Folks, I got a great panel with me. We've got the National Business League's Dr. Ken Harris. We've got the MTV executive, Dara Cook. We've got below me, we've got Andrew Colomb, developer of Century Partners in Detroit. To his immediate right, we've got CJ Jordan, political strategist in Washington, D.C. And last but not least, we've got Deshandra Johnson, a business analyst. And if you need something done, she can get it done. Folks, I want to start off with Ken Harris to my immediate right. Ken, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. But I got a question. Folks are saying that Ice Cube sold out. I want to hear from you. We're talking about the Platinum Plan. The president and Ice Cube actually met to talk about a plan to support Black businesses nationwide. Is this the right move, or is this politics as usual? I want to hear from you.
No question about it. Thanks for having me on the show, Brandon. It's always a pleasure. You always push the envelope into our distinguished panel on either side of the fence. It is so needed that Black America comes together in dialogue. With that being said, in terms of my role as the national president of the National Business League, which is the oldest and largest Black business trade association in the country with 120,000 members, any man or woman with a plan is the man. And so when I say Ice Cube, who came together with a contract for Black America, a bipartisan objective in which he proposed the contract and put it in front of both parties. One party responded, the other one postponed their deliberations. But at the end of the day, it's a nonpartisan contract. And so anything that we can do to push the Democratic and Republican Party to move towards a Black agenda is necessary. And so in this day and age, when you look at the historical connection between both parties, we are looking for the full liberation and reparation of Black people. And in terms of economic development, we must push both parties to not only repair what has been done for the past 150 years and the labor that is owed, but more importantly, what's going to be the agreement for our vote for either party as we move forward. So we don't want to misconfuse Ice Cube and say that he did a deal with Trump. Trump responded, and Joe Biden has an opportunity to respond. At the end of the day, it's about the Black agenda and a contract for our vote. It's not for free anymore.
So, Dara, so when we talk about this Black agenda, I mean, the reality is the Trump folks responded. The Biden folks essentially said, we'll wait till after the campaign. I want to hear from you. I mean, when we talk about celebrities that get involved in politics, is Ice Cube doing the right thing, or is he being played?
Actually, I think we're all being played because the narrative and the narrative that the media has glommed onto is not the right narrative.
Correct.
Instead of us discussing the merits of his contract, the contract itself is actually excellent. We're having this other conversation, which is Trump and Ice Cube versus Black America. So that's an easier, more entertaining conversation to be had than the more difficult conversation to have is, are you going to read his 22-page contract? Are you going to read Trump's 2-page Platinum Plan? Are you also going to read Biden and Harris's Lift Every Voice plan? And are you going to compare them? People aren't doing that work. I know that people haven't really read Ice Cube's contract because I have read articles about this in the LA Times and the Grio and Rolling Stone and a bunch of Twitter hot takes. And they're missing some major points, and they're missing some things in his contract. If you actually read his contract, there are major typos in it. Now, that has nothing to do with the merits of what he's talking about, but that's a smoking gun to me that all the people who are writing and discussing this contract They are not looking at the underlying issues. So we're all getting closed. We're not having the conversation about some of the major points that he's bringing up. Should the broadcast networks have 20% of their content be produced by Black people? Should all television and movie sets have 13.4% African Americans? Should VCs that take any public funding invest 13.4% into Black-owned companies? We're not even having these conversations. Roland Martin did a 37-minute interview with Ice Cube and did not talk about any of this. So what we're failing to understand is that we have all been subsumed in this very easy, almost cinematic story, right? We love protagonists and antagonists. We love a very easy, flat story that we can tell. So we say Donald Trump is a bad guy, and Ice Cube is talking to him, so he must be a bad guy too. Let's engage in that conversation versus some of the very salient points in his contract.
LaShondra, hold on one second. LaShondra, let me go down to you because this is interesting. When one campaign essentially jumped on the opportunity to meet with Ice Cube, the other campaign said, we're going to wait till after the election. The fact that Biden's folks did that, what's your thoughts on that? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I second doubly everything that has been said with regard to looking at this from not the perspective of a Republican or Democrat, but what is the best interest of African Americans as it is right now in 2020. In addition to that, we are so conditioned quickly to pick sides when we see African American leaders who may be siding with the other side, right? And thinking about what I understood and what I gathered from listening directly to Ice Cube himself and not what other people are saying about what he's saying. Ice Cube says, I'm not for any particular party. I'm for the people who want to forward this agenda specifically. And so I do think that the Biden team of campaign, they're focused in possibly the wrong areas here, and that they missed an opportunity to see where their plan, to Ms. Cook's point, aligned and where they saw the opportunity. I also am seeing that there's a change and a shift in the Trump campaign and really doubling down on the targeting of African-American small business owners and saying that their plan is more aligned in a tax base and in a business growth standpoint to the Black agenda. And I'm not seeing those commercials so much in the Biden campaign. It is more focused on healthcare. It's more focused in other areas that are social justice speaking. And if you look at Ice Cube's plan, you can see there is a throughway between both parties. You can see the areas of business and economic development that might more resemble the original party tenets of the Republican Party, GOP. And then you can also see the more social justice, police reform, and education and other things. And so there really isn't a party that speaks in his plan. What it speaks on is specific to what I am understanding is what Black people need right now. And that we are woefully behind in the banking aspects. It is talking about an equaling of a playing field in all aspects of home ownership, business ownership, education. And then I also like the portion of the plan that talked about Black ownership in ourselves and accountability around violence and mental health and some of those other aspects that no one is really talking about on either side of the aisle as much as they need to be. And COVID-19 has really brought about the needs for healthcare, but it's also brought about the needs of protecting African-American small businesses. And so, quite frankly, I don't think either party has addressed head on the needs of African Americans in the way that you've heard more of a discussion about what our white needs and white supremacy needs, right? Right now, we need to be talking about what are our needs in America.
Let me ask this, because CJ, I want to ask you this. I mean, at first, I thought you had a Make America Great hat on as we speak. Some have said that this bill or this proposal is almost a little too soon, too late. I want to get your thoughts on it. I mean, should this have been rolled out a year from now? And also, it sounds like everything DeShandra says, haven't Republicans been talking about personal responsibility and ownership? Hasn't that always been the narrative? Your thoughts, CJ?
Thank you for having me on the show this evening. I want to deal with it in a historical context for just a little bit. So when we look at the Emancipation Proclamation and we talk about 40 acres and a mule, when Lincoln freed the slaves, before Reconstruction really could get full force, when African Americans were taking advantage of that as entrepreneurs and political structure, Lincoln was assassinated. So fast forward a couple of years down the road, when Dr. King was dealing with the Poor People's Campaign and moving from social justice to economic justice, he was then assassinated. So when we get to Nixon, Nixon says Black power is Black businesses. Ooh. And that's when my mentor and advisor, Bob Brown, put in MBDA, he put in SBA, he put in EEO, affirmative action, as well as the National Minority Supplier Development Council to deal with both private and public sector. Now, when we talk about Trump and the Platinum Plan, it really now begins to say, okay, what did we not get? Yeah, I know Republicans, we cringe at reparations, but really we're now putting money on the table to say, look, Black businesses is Black power. And whether you like the word Black power, whether you like the word reparations, the bottom line is we have a Platinum Plan. And with Ice Cube, the fact that we want to have that discussion is very important. And it is part of our legacy in supporting Black-owned businesses. And it's time for economic justice for the Black community. And I would take it a further step versus 13% of African Americans in the entertainment industry, because that is our population. I would look at the fact that the LGBTQ business community, they're demanding 25% minimum within the entertainment industry, but they're only 2.3% of the population. So no, it's a good start. We need to have this conversation. And the fact that the Trump campaign understands it, is moving it forward, I think it's a good start.
Andrew, let me ask you this. You are a African-American business owner. Two questions. What should the Black agenda be? And then also, in your opinion, which is President Trump or is Joe Biden or Vice President Joe Biden, which one is actually relevant to your cause as a business owner?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. So I'm definitely a small business owner. I own a real estate development company here in Detroit. I've been doing real estate for over 10 years. I own my own business in Mississippi, own my own business in Detroit. I hire lots of Black people who own their own business. And a lot of times, a lot of the things that people in the Black community say they want, I've had the blessing and the opportunity to do. And the thing I can say, I've had success at it. So I'm living proof that the things that people are demanding are possible and doable if given resources and opportunities to succeed. So I've always been thankful for that and hopeful others will get that opportunity as well. And that's one thing I think everyone in this conversation clearly agrees with what they're saying. So I think that one thing we definitely need in the African American community is we need access to capital. And that's just undeniable. In America, you can't build wealth without access to capital. I think it's great, jobs are super important. We've had jobs. I think the government on the state, federal level have done a good job of hiring a lot of African Americans. But the problem with a job is it doesn't create passive income. And what the thing about creating a business is you create the opportunity to have passive income. So not only are you able to have a catalytic effect where you're able to hire people through your network, are able to build opportunities to have economic freedom, economic security, you're able to do several businesses, have passive income, and affect a lot of positive things. I think access to capital is one thing that 100%, we can't do any of the stuff we need to do without access to capital. And that's the thing that we 100% have been denied. And that's the thing that we created for America. America benefited from free capital through the labor that we provided historically. And now we have to get access to capital throughout our entire community so that we can all benefit. And as far as Trump and Biden and Ice Cube, I mean, I'm not against. I definitely don't like when our blackness gets used as a political pawn. It's not about being pro or anti. Ice Cube, any political figure. In a lot of ways, Ice Cube, for me, is a distraction at this moment. To me, Trump is an unacceptable option as an elected official for black people. Even for black men, he is unacceptable. Trump is a threat to democracy. And black people, we have fought so much for this democracy and sacrificed so much for this democracy that we cannot risk a threat to democracy like Trump, regardless of even who is promising what. I have a lot of suspicions about Trump with his Johnny-come-lately attraction to black people. But at the end of the day, regardless of what they're promising, he's a threat to democracy. If we don't have a democracy in America, I guarantee you, eventually the white supremacists take over. The democracy is the only thing that ultimately protects us. So I would just urge everyone to vote for Biden. I'm voting for Biden. I'm a businessman. We can argue about getting policy that's pro-black after the election. But my 100% argument is we have to get rid of Trump. And I understand why black conservative men are attracted to small businesses. I do it. They can do it. They do need access to capital to do it. But Trump is not the solution.
CJ, I want to ask you real quick, and then I'm going to go around. It's interesting because according to the Rasmussen poll, black women are voting for Joe Biden, but black men are actually supporting, in some cases, the president. Your thought, why is that, CJ?
Well, here it is. The bottom line is in 1995, we had over 1 million black men that marched on Washington with Louis Farrakhan. And one of their biggest things they protested about was the 1994 crime bill and 3 strikes you out. So when we look at the record of Joe Biden, 1994 crime bill, 3 strikes you out, and we look at the African-American male who just got out of prison for a life sentence of stealing hedge clippers. So a great deal of our 50% of population is being locked up. So me as a single woman, my chances of having a relationship is going to be with a black male who just been in prison. So that's the reality of it. The second thing, when we talk about access to capital, I served in this administration. So the first thing that I was able to do with this administration is get the paperwork signed off to establish us supporting a $1 billion fund for Black-owned businesses, which access to capital. And that's being done today with a grant from MBDA. So I think we want to be, I can get on here and talk about democracy. I want to really talk about, at the end of the day, what has Joe Biden done for us in the African-American community from a business standpoint? I mean, at the end of the day, we need to be asking the questions about why was Joe Biden getting 10% of an energy company in China when he was vice president? So when we talk about democracy, why is his brother, after 20 years, who killed a person, was unemployed, had no money, but all of a sudden in March came up with $1 million to pay off a grieving family that he owed $1 million to after 20 years? How did his brother get a $1 billion contract to do construction in Iraq when he was vice president? And we're talking about democracy.
Hold on. One second, CJ. Hold on, CJ, because we're running out on time. Ken Harris, Dr. Ken Harris, I want to ask you this real quick. We just talked about the fact that Joe Biden has been in Washington for 40, 70 years plus. Let me ask you, as a businessman, and I'll just ask you straight up, is Joe Biden's policies good for black business?
You're muted.
You muted yourself, Ken.
You muted yourself, Ken.
Yeah, sorry about
that.
There
you go.
Let's look at the trajectory of our democracy. One, 50 years later, post-Civil Rights Act, blacks are either equal or lower than the place they were when we were integrated. So we are at the lowest point in society in terms of policies that do not benefit black people or black economics. One, traditional banking institutions, we had 2 stimulus bills that came out, both approved by the Congress, the House, and the Senate, and signed off by the president. Both stimulus packages missed Black business completely and small businesses in general by the larger percent. As of today, 40% of Black businesses by CBS News, ABC News, New York Times, etc., has predicted that Black businesses either have closed their doors permanently or are one check away. And so when you look at policies that have been demonstrative on both the Democratic and the Republican side, there needs to be an honest conversation and a contract with Black America. So I applaud Ice Cube and what he's doing to push the discussion, to have the discussion, to not alienate parties. And if a party responds, that tells me that they're open. If a party postpones me and tells me they'll deal with me later, that tells me that you don't respect me. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go with who is going to serve my interests in my community, because my vote is no longer for free. At the end of the day, it's about Black economic progress. Black economic progress leads to social, educational, political, and whatever else you want to call progress in our community. And so we have to be serious as we go forward in this day and time. We need to be focused. We need to have a real discussion about what our agenda should look like. Ice Cube's agenda is not perfect, but guess what? It starts the discussion. And this is where I support him, that we all get to come to the table, and then don't give me a handshake. Don't give me a press conference and platitudes. I need policy that's going to direct your attention towards the full liberation and reparation of the Black community. So by answering your questions,
earlier it was mentioned that Black women support Joe Biden, and Black men, essentially in large numbers, support Donald Trump. Why do you think there's such a big push for Black women supporting Joe Biden?
One of the things that we have to forget about is all of the pundit conversations of the moment. And we have very short memories. And as women, we are mothers. We have to think about what happened to those children that are orphans right now. So I think Black women are still remembering that our president made a whole bunch of children orphans. I also, as a survivor myself of domestic violence, any woman who knows Joe Biden is the reason why you can call the police when your husband or your boyfriend is attacking you. I think that women remember that as well. I think that just traditionally, Black women, we are more loyal to the Democratic Party in general. I think that we have been taken for granted in that regard. And any party that can figure out above and beyond what to do to get us excited from an election standpoint, but also harness the strength of African-American women in leadership positions and running for office and diversity of office as far as our Congress, our other representations. That's what we really need to be talking about as it relates to Black women. But unfortunately for us, we are loyal, right? Doesn't always mean that we're getting what that loyalty requires, but we also have long memories. And no one has really addressed what has happened to those children. And as a mother, I think about that, right? I think about the fact that what could happen when our democracy is gone and it's my child that's in a cage and I'm the one that's separated, right? And we have been caged before. So Black women, we don't forget about that either. So when you talk about the protectors of our race as Black women, we are the protectors, and we are going to be more concerned about the healthcare issues and the social justice issues, and the fact that when our Black boys go out of their houses, we have to tell them to take their hoods off. We have to tell them to only say a few things to the police. And those are things that Black women worry about. When you have a president that is, lauding the people that are attacking us and lauding the people who are killing our kids, then forget economics, right? You are worried about your human safety, and that is most important. And we are scared. And so I believe that Black women are going with the candidate that is least fearful and isn't inciting violence, that people are getting shot up in churches and all of these things. And so we don't always think on the economic business side. I think we think more on how it relates to our families and how it relates to safety and how we care for our elders. And those are the things that I just haven't seen Trump speak to. When you talk about old people as dispendable with COVID, and, you know, I lost my great aunt to COVID in a time which her caregiver in Atlanta couldn't go see her, and it broke her heart, and she died of a broken heart. Okay. She was the last living part of our family. That whole legacy is gone. We lost during COVID-19. And so when you have a president that says he doesn't care about our elderly and that they're dispendable, well, she wasn't dispendable to me.
As is most. Jerron, I want to ask you this. I mean, you literally, your job, you work with entertainers. That's what you do. You're in the entertainment industry. Let me ask you this. When you hear people like Sean Penn, Ice Cube, P. Diddy get into politics, do they have a role in shaping the narrative? Or, I mean, because most of these people are well off, living in the hills, are they out of touch?
When I saw all this backlash over Ice Cube, it reminded me a bit of the whole shut up and dribble conversation that happened around LeBron. When you actually read Ice Cube's contract, it's very cogent. You can, look, after reading it, it was clear to me he probably didn't write it, right? He didn't write it. I believe my friend Derek Hamilton wrote a lot of it. I mean, he did write the preamble to it. I think he probably wrote, different pieces of it. Ice Cube did say he worked with various experts, probably on the same level as Dr. Hamilton, to inform it. I'm not too sure, based on Ice Cube's interview with Roland Martin, that he's really read it fully himself. I think that he is a bit of, I think Ice Cube realizes that he has a platform, and he was able to pull together some of the best thinking on these issues and put together a cogent plan, and then used his platform and his celebrity to promote it. So, and I'm also questioning to what extent we treat Black men or Black people who extend beyond their silos differently than white folks when they do it, right? So why can't Ice Cube talk about these issues, right? He has continually throughout his career, he has broken through barriers. He has become a bit of a film mogul, someone who was a rapper in a group to becoming a solo artist to becoming a real force in behind the scenes. Why can't he have that same freedom of expression? And I don't think that we give Black folks the same range to do that. We're not even reading what he's saying. I know this because, and this is the problem with social media. So as someone in the media, I look at this from a media standpoint. What you have is the conflation of two things that have come together. Is that traditional media and journalism has been defunded essentially by all of us. And then social media has supplanted much of traditional media. So you don't have people doing the real journalistic work of reading through the documentation, reading through the source material. And then you've got a bunch of people on social media, a lot of them with blue check marks, who are want a hot, speedy take, right? So they want to say he's a sellout, right? And as opposed to sitting down and saying, hey, I'm not going to tweet anything about this for a while, because on social media, speed is currency, right? I don't need to be the first one out of the gate with a hot take. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to go through the nitty gritty of reading his proposal, and I'll see that actually he, right on the third page, he recopied a few bullet points. So the text is jumbled a bit. No one's going to do that work, right? Because they want the hot, quick take. And now his message is being obscured in these other conversations. The contract is excellent, and it mirrors so much of other work that has been put forward by the Congressional Black Caucus and some other work that has already been put forth by other grassroots organizations. It brings together some of the best thinking, but we're not having this conversation.
Let me ask the group, because we got about 10 minutes left. I want to just put out there, and anyone can answer, Who were the winners and losers of this Ice Cube phenomenon last week, in your opinion?
Black folks.
I think
Okay.
it's to a bigger issue that was just brought up, and it's concerning. It's not just about Ice Cube. It's about how we value Blacks who have ideas in general. And if you look at even Master P, who has just put out new products in response to the Aunt Jemima, and so he's put out his own line of breakfast things. And you look at everyone that when they see Ice Cube, it's almost like he's almost been allowed in this structure to get where he is, but how dare he step outside of what we really think he should be, and that's a thug rapper, right? And even if it's not Ice Cube, even if it's Snoop Dogg, right? He may be saying something totally different. Or even let's talk about Cardi B. When Cardi B says something political, well, what does she know? She's nothing but just a former stripper, right? But she's the most savvy, business savvy, marketing savvy stripper I've ever seen in my life. And I think we should all take a course in Cardi B's marketing class. So, what I really think is interesting is that when we are given the opportunity to step outside of the box that society has given us and put us in that poverty box, and we found creative ways to get out and then figure our way through the system, when we look back, people still discredit our knowledge as if we don't know what we're talking about. And so I don't think that anyone was going to read what Ice Cube was saying, because they didn't think he had anything to really say. They just see him as this rapper guy who just happened to get lucky and makes the movies, just happened to hire some Black people and get a little bigger and make more money. Maybe he's sort of a little smart, but what does he know?
Yeah.
Let me ask the group really quick. I mean, right now we've got less than 20 days until the presidential election. We could have a new president. We could have the same president. I want to ask you guys, how do you think both camps are going to deal with this platinum plan? I mean, the president's rolling out the platinum plan. Biden even rolled out his plan. I think it was 6 months earlier, but we still haven't seen any meat on it. What are both camps going to do about Black issues? I'll open it to the floor.
I would say I think that hopefully Biden wins, because I think it would be a disaster for Black people if Trump won. So I cannot reiterate that enough. Definitely think that would be a disaster if Trump won. But I think that regardless of who wins, what Ice Cube has done, I think, has begun a shift that was already obviously coming, where there is going to be a rethinking and a realignment of Black people's existence within this political spectrum. And I think that's obvious, and I don't think that's going to change regardless. I think we're not going to ever be taken for granted with it. I think we're not going to allow ourselves to just be automatically Democrats going forward. I think that this is probably the last election Democrats will get anything near without making significant progress for African Americans. I think this is their last chance. Absolutely. And I think we need to definitely make our issues bipartisan issues. That is 100% true. And I celebrate Ice Cube. And I don't mean to say I think Ice Cube is a distraction. I mean, the controversy is a distraction. The idea that there's some controversy around Ice Cube expressing his opinion, that absolutely is just a distraction. He absolutely has the right to express his opinion. And Black people have always expressed their opinions. And we've always had Black leaders. And, we've always created the change that has benefited the entire civil America. I mean, everyone, all the immigrants here, a lot of the white people here, they're benefiting from change that Black people have brought to America. We have been a gift to America since we've been here, that they've abused that gift. And now we have to basically make them treat that gift the way it should have been treated from the beginning. So I understand 100% what people are saying. Don't take our votes on free. They absolutely are not free. Our votes were paid for by our ancestors. They already paid for our vote. So we demanded the right to vote, and now we're going to use our vote to demand change, regardless of the parties. Honestly, it's not going to just be the president or a governor or a senator. It's going to be on the local level, individual African Americans. We are going to make the change. We are already making the change. There are going to be more people like me. There already are, and it's only going to continue, and there's no stopping it. And we're going to work together. There's going to be no more divide and conquer. No more political divide and conquer. We're going to work together for a uniform agenda. And everyone gets the right to have their own opinion.
CJ, let me ask you this, because you have literally been in the room with the president. You dealt with people who work and report to the president. Let me ask you this. As an African-American female, do you feel that this administration is moving Black people forward or not? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we are, and we have. And what is a very hard disservice is the fact that we often get discounted as Black Republicans who have the position of authority to advocate and move things forward, even within our own community. So you can't belittle the fact that this president has done over $8 billion worth of federal contracting with African-American businesses higher than the prior administration. We created and established an infrastructure for $1 billion fund. We moved the HBCU office back into the White House because the prior administration took it from the White House and put it back over the Department of Education. You look at opportunity investment zones for passive investment. You look at permanent funding for our HBCUs for the first time in their history when $300 million was taken away from them under the prior administration. So we have made great strides. We just don't get the opportunity to be able to really talk about it. And those opportunities are very small and few in between. But I want to get back to the past piece.
Mm-hmm.
The Black community, yes, we are 13% of the population nationally. But we are also sometimes to our own detriment and our own fault. So we can't just look at the white America and what the man is doing. We also are detrimental to our own self. We're, as Black Americans, perfect example, Cornel West and Tavis Smiley. We took them to task for holding the Obama administration accountable, asking where was and what were they doing for Black Americans, the same things where they were doing for LGBT community, the Hispanic community. Where was our piece of the pie with the first Black president? And so now we're having this discussion and we're becoming our own worst enemy of cancel culture against, Ice Cube and calling him a sellout. It's not just the white folks, it's a Black community. And we're the only community that has our vote lock, stop, and barrel behind one political party. The Jewish, the Hispanic community, the Asian community, they split their vote, but they come to the table and talk to whoever is in office to advocate on behalf of their community. So you take California. California is about to pass a reparations bill for slavery. Well, Black folks, we jumping up and down, clapping like, hey, we just came to America. But guess what? There were less than 1,000 African-American slaves in California. Over 225,000 of those slaves in California were of Japanese descent and Japanese concentration camp. So we're not going to be the biggest beneficiary of the peace. But yet we talking about, we about to get reparations from California. No, 1,000 and less. So we need to be a little bit more studious about what we're shouting about and really come to the table and say, you know what? Even if Trump wins, we need to have a conversation. Even if the Democrats control the House and the Senate, we still need to come and talk to our Republican representatives. Why? Because, hey, they can also insert pieces of legislation. And if they represent your district, why wouldn't you not talk to them? That's the only way that we can effectuate change.
Hold on, guys. So we got about 1 minute left. I want to give 5 seconds to each one of you. Just have any ending thoughts. Dr. Harris, you go first, and we're going to end with Andrew. Go ahead, Dr. Harris. 5 seconds.
We don't want history to repeat itself. The policing of Black bodies has always been in place. Every time we tried to escape the plantation, there was someone there trying to catch us. Every time we tried to get Black Wall Street in place and go towards economic empowerment and move into the economic mainstream of society, we were bombed, terrorized, and our communities destroyed. Every time we came up with policy, we had civil, no economic rights attached to that bill. We had affirmative half action, where white women have been the biggest beneficiary of civil rights and other immigrant groups. Hey, look, enough is enough. Black folks want full liberation and full participation and full equity and inclusion in this marketplace. And we're not settling for it. I don't care if you red, blue, black, or green. We coming with our agenda. We realize that 20 years from now, Black folks and melanated people will be the majority of this country, and we are going to set the standard. And so whoever pays attention to us, everyone else that doesn't, you won't notice. And so that's how we coming. And on behalf of Booker T. Washington, his message is more relevant today than it was 120 years ago. It's about Black business, Black economics, and Black entrepreneurship. Once you got money in your pocket, everything else is a lot easier.
Amen.
All right, guys, 5 seconds to Rob.
Okay. I'd like to end with this. The book Sapiens talks about how Cortez and a few of his men were able to take over the entire Aztec Empire. And the same with Pizarro. How is it that Pizarro and a few men were able to take over the entire Incan Empire? And the way they did it was to sow division amongst the natives. This is what's happening right now. This Ice Cube controversy is a microcosm of sowing division amongst the natives, so to speak. So we need to understand world history, that this has happened before, and it continues to happen. And there is a higher agenda. We are arguing about the wrong things.
Deshandra?
I'm just going to say, most importantly, no matter who you vote for, no matter what you believe, vote. That is my 5 seconds, and that's all I have to say. Don't let all of the discussion be about nothing if you don't go vote. And I don't mean just about Trump and Biden. You have to think about everything up and down that ballot and your judges. And you better start reading up on your judges and read about their law cases and then vote, because you can't make change without using your voice.
CJ.
My thing is not just about voting, but we need to also hold our own community leaders, Black elected leaders, accountable to the same standard. Because look, our Black mayors are still running these cities, and we need to hold them accountable about where's our piece of the pie locally when we're talking about our fair share, economic justice. Words are platitudes. I want action.
All right, Andrew, close us out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was a great discussion. I love getting to hear everything everybody had to say. It was very inspiring and just filled me with inspiration. So I definitely think the one thing that I always feel is they don't tell enough of our positive history. There's not enough of an understanding of how just amazing Black people have been in America and in world history. They really don't do a good job of letting us have that pride and that feeling of accomplishment that they hide our history from us. So, I just know the Ossian Street story means a lot to me. I made a short film about it. The Detroit story, I think it's a story that fills a lot of people with pride about what we do, and we demand our rights and demand our ability to live wherever we want. So please check out One Sweet Night on Facebook, One Sweet Night on Facebook. And thank you so much for having me, Brandon.
Folks, that is the show. I'm again your host, the People's Champ, Brandon Bryce. Real news, real people, straight to the point. This has been another great episode of Straight Talk. It's that time. I'm going to bed. Good night and good luck. And Godspeed. Hold on.